I'm good.
Too scared to fight with us. You're like, what, 7?
I'll show them. I don't need to train to learn how to fight. Let's discover Fighting Force. This week's game is brought to us by Core Design, the developers of the Tomb Raider series of games, and since even I knew what those were back in the day, we're in good hands. Originally released on the PS1 back in 1997, it was then upgraded and released again on the N64 in 1999. We'll be playing both versions today and comparing and contrasting them. Right away, the game looks like something straight out of an arcade cabinet. The animation looks good for the time, and the music is absolutely badass. We have 4 characters to choose from. Hawk Mason, our classic personality-deprived musclehead. Alana McKendricks, a kinda hot girl that I swear I didn't know was 17 officer. Ben Smasher Jackson, the classic thought-deprived extreme muscle. And finally, Mace Daniels, who could kill with her fists or just a look at that leather. I think the choice is obvious here. This game is, once again, a multiplayer, but I'll be playing on my own this time since Myth is...
Did you tap out already?
Never!
busy. So our story begins with... Well, I mean, obviously it's about... Alright, so the game doesn't actually tell us anything about what it's about. It doesn't even have an opening cutscene. But this is what instruction manuals used to be for. So onwards to read it. Oh. Well, there's always the PS1 version to fall back on, and... Oh, Google! The 4 characters have various reasons for taking on Dr. Zhang, a criminal mastermind with an army at his command. Wow, how helpful! Okay, so I had to fall back on a friend with more experience in old fighting games, and the story is thus. Mace is an undercover detective, and Zhang deals in drugs. Hawk, even my friend didn't really know other than Mace has seen him around. Lana used to work for Zhang, and Smasher was in prison wrongly accused because of Zhang. So with our very flimsy plot out of the way, let's punch stuff! The game always starts out just outside of an office building as you fight your way inside to arrest Dr. Zhang. The combat is simple and solid with a basic punch and kick button, and there's also a simple back fist button that's supposed to make it quick and easy to attack an enemy behind you, but I find it just tends to leave you open to everyone else as you miss wildly. Don't think I'm being down in this game though, because the music is awesome and the movement from screen to screen isn't locked to that basic move right once all enemies are dead. You might need to move through a doorway, down a path, or even break a piece of the environment to move ahead. There are even environmental hazards to watch out for, such as the van you can actually get run over by. Every few screens you finish the level and receive points, moving on to a new area within the level. If you move to the entrance to the area before the timer runs out and the screen flashes, and you get a gun? We get guns in a fist fight? I'm good with this.
Eat what?
I'm sorry, I just thought you died! Yeah, this is one of my big complaints about the game. Guns are useless in your hands. They do no damage to the enemy, they're quite hard to aim actually, but in your enemy's hands, they are dead accurate, do way too much damage, and knock you off your feet. But with every shot, you end up just gritting your teeth slightly, bobbing your head to that music, and punching in the face of anything that annoys you and keep pushing ahead. In addition to the guns, there are other weapons, ranging from crates to tires to knives and lead pipes. They all do more damage, but they're very slow, so you might have to be smart about using them, and I usually just stuck to my fists overall. Between the weapons and the fists, you fight your way up to the top of the building and confront Dr. Zhang, who runs away onto a helicopter while Mace just watches. So instead, we take to the streets, pushing ahead past street thugs, speeding cars, and helicopters. The area ends in a climactic battle against a massive dude wielding an axe. Once you stop trying to hit him and just stay back and throw axes and pipes at him, he goes down easy. From here, the levels split. You can choose to go to the mall, the park, or the Bronx. You can choose by running into the corresponding area of the screen, which can throw you off. See, which route they send you in is dependent on how many points you've accrued. Points are gained by picking up money and jewels as you drop off and defeat random enemies. So you want to grab all the points to try a new path. But as you run to grab the pickups, you run too far towards one part of the screen or another, and it takes that as your decision on which path you're going to take. The branching paths don't actually really change the gameplay, instead they just change the backgrounds and the worlds that you travel through. The mall is bright and full of punks, and you honestly kind of feel bad for interrupting their day. The Bronx, in contrast, is incredibly dark and atmospheric as you fight through the streets. The park is similar to the mall stage, only more open in space. All 3 levels end up meeting back up in an underground subway where you must battle the next boss, Exo. He's massive, with huge metal gauntlets over his hands. You can't actually attack him directly without dying because his punches do massive damage, so it's not instantly clear how to beat him. But in the end, I was able to think hard and find a deep, strategic method of taking him down safely. With Exo defeated, you get another choice between air and a naval base. In both cases, you fight your way down a train, then you fight your way through waves of military on the bases. The boss of the naval base uses a jetpack to smash down on you and must be defeated by throwing barrels. The boss of the airbase uses the jetpack mostly for mobility and instead focuses more on hand-to-hand combat. However you travel to Dr. Zeng's island is determined by which base you chose. Airbase takes a helicarrier and the naval base takes a boat. Pretty self-explanatory. Either one of them has the same style of enemies and waves and group after group of blue-suited military dudes that come in on jet skis and mini hovercarts. Both paths join up again once you land on the island as you fight your way through the laboratories and passages of the Doctor's twisted creation. There are foes that heal you if you don't continuously attack them here, as well as the most annoying foe in the game, giant dudes with stun arms. If they have started their swing, you cannot stop their attack, and will be thrown around and take damage. They'll start attacking before you can get up, leaving you unable to dodge and avoid the attack as you stand back up into it. But with perseverance, practice, and changing to easy difficulty, you can make it through. But that isn't really helpful in the next area. You ride an open-ended elevator with alternating waves of tough enemies and magically appearing rockets. This level highlights a huge issue with the game: decreasing creativity. See, the opening levels have like swerving cars, helicopters that show up out of nowhere and attack you, different movements, different ways you have to go, and unique looks. But as the levels go on, there's less and less creativity. The helicarrier or the boat is just waves and waves and waves and waves of foes in the same place in waves. But at least it's an interesting place. But then the hallways start looking exactly the same, but this platform seems like the height of laziness. It's literally just blank open space sitting in a brown background with the same bars going by for 6 entire minutes with no way to speed up. Final fight against Dr. Zeng feels kind of anticlimactic too. You run away from him, you break open the pillars, grab a gun, shoot him until you need a new gun, which won't take long. He goes down fairly easily, it just takes a long time. At the end of the PS1 version, you then have a cutscene of the newspaper saying Zeng is jailed and of him in a tiny cell on a tiny island. So why aren't you seeing this cutscene behind me talking? Let's get into the differences between versions. Firstly, the graphics are supposed to be upgraded on the N64. I'll be blunt, I simply cannot see it. The PS1 graphics just look smoother overall, but the movements on the N64 seem a bit less choppy to me. That's not something I can really show you, it's more something you feel when you're playing it. The pickups are also bigger on the N64 though, so you can grab them easier. On the PS1, you might find yourself running back and forth a few times just trying to find the hitbox of a sandwich to heal you before some thugs kill you. The biggest difference between the systems, however, is the lives system. On the N64, you start with a couple of lives and you earn more as you hit thresholds of points. Every time you die, as long as you have another life, you stand back up and your life bar slowly refills, and then after a couple of seconds, you regain control over your character. As simple as this sounds, it will end up driving you insane because there is nothing to prevent enemies, and particularly bosses, from attacking you as your health bar is filling. So before you're even back in control over your character to move or attack, you're losing your health again. In contrast, the original PS1 is insane. Every continue sends you back to the start of the entire zone. So you need to get through the entire area in one perfect, full health bar. That starts to get a little difficult once you're in Zeng's base, but I could still manage. Once you reach the elevator of blandness, I literally could not beat the game. I played the level over and over, but it's simply too long. The enemies refuse to drop any healing items, and the rockets can't really be consistently dodged. Overall, it seems like they're shooting towards where you were at that moment, but then what angle they're going to travel at isn't clear or how they're going to fly, so they'll cut between you and where you were and wipe you out. And once one rocket has hit you, you can forget about ever dodging another one because of the delay between when you finish standing up and when you can move your character. So you have to do 6 minutes of alternating rockets and enemies without letting any enemy hit you, so that hopefully you can survive 2 small mistakes with rockets. Even on the easy setting, I could not make it to the end of the game on PS1. Maybe I suck at the game. Maybe it's more than maybe that beat 'em ups aren't my genre. But even with that, which version would I rather play? That comes down especially to the final difference, the loading times. On N64, the loading times aren't all that long, the classic advantage of a cartridge game. The loading times on the PS1, on the other hand, can literally take over a full minute to load a stage. I understand it's loading a lot and an old game, but the game is carried by its action and epic music. A loading screen has neither and leaves you plenty of time to become frustrated. So between that, the smaller pickups, and the whole issue of being completely unable to finish the game, I would rather play the N64 version any day. Overall, I would definitely suggest trying out this game. The music, as I've mentioned several times, is not only upbeat and awesome, but it actually helps keep the frustrating bits going by keeping the energy pumped up and flowing throughout. It probably is easier with a friend, but I didn't get to try it that way. And I don't think it's like Castle Crashers where you have to play it with a friend in order to actually have fun with it. Just don't expect an easy game. But after all this action, I'm ready for anything.
Embrace the darkness, Otter!